What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Civivi Keen Nadder? Nadder? I'm not really sure. We're just gonna call it the Keen from now on because I don't want to stumble around that for the rest of the review. This knife will be listed right down in the description. It's very compelling and definitely a little bit different than some of the other really pretty straightforward Civivis that we've seen here recently, but that's kind of Civivi's thing. I don't want to come down on them for making a lot of slightly different yet really good designs in the budget territory. This guy's a little bit different, so I'll invite you to check that out down below if you want to, and there's a few different options. Thanks so much to Civivi for sending this in for review. Really appreciate that. And thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. This is definitely a full-size knife, coming in at 8 inches, a little more, 8 1/8. Blade length, you could call it 3 1/2. Yeah, 3 1/2. And your cutting edge, about 3 1/4. So a nice full-size knife. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, Ontario Rat Model 2. So you can see here, this is a little shorter than the Rat 1, but definitely still a full-size knife. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? And the Spyderco Para 3, where is it? It's right here. So there you go. Close to the size of the PM2, definitely longer than the Para 3, more cutting edge than both. Last but not least, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue, and its little brother, the Mini Griptilian. About exactly the same size, nearly the same cutting edge as the Ritter Hogue. Same amount of real estate on the handle, just straighter, and definitely larger than the Mini Grip. How about carry profile up against the Spyderco Para 3? You can see here that we share a similar thickness, slightly thicker than the Keen. Let's go ahead and put it up against the PM2 and Para 3 for length and height. See here, this is basically just long and straight. Even including the flipper tab, it's nowhere near as tall as either of these knives, so it shouldn't create much more of a problem in the pocket than either of these, but it depends on your preference, right? How about blade stock thickness? A little bit more robust on this blade than we've seen from Civivi in the past, which is kind of neat, even if it's just in a novelty sense. Blade stock thickness coming in at, look at that, 104, it's probably 140 thousandths for a Civivi. Now, does that gain you any benefit? I mean, the blade's gonna be a little bit stronger, but okay, there you go. So materials on this guy, we're looking at micarta steel liners and 140-ish thousandths of N690 steel. Let's go ahead and weigh it. I'm gonna guess this guy weighs about 3 1/2 to 4 ounces. Okay, pretty close, 3.67 ounces. That's nearly an ounce an inch for those of you ratio aficionados, right? Some people aren't gonna like a knife this big, a knife with this thick a blade stock, even though it's really not that thick, or a knife that this is this heavy. In my book, this is really lightweight. I don't have a problem carrying it. Some people are gonna have legality issues, of course. Just, you know, go with your preferences, check your local laws. Let's do a hardware check, get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive, very recommendable. You can find them down in the My Tools section of my description. I believe, like most Civivis, everything is T8, 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 yeah, everything's going to be T8 except for the pocket clip screws, which are going to be T6. So that's fine, and it's minimal, and it's a liner lock, which means it should be very easy to take apart. So that's fantastic. Did we take a look at the inside? No, but we will. You can get my flashlight down there as well. Inside, you can see we do have, what was, just for a moment, we had full illumination on those skeletonized liners. You guys can probably see in there, right? So there you go. All right. So this is a flipper slash thumb stud opener slash, right? You can do the reverse flick with the thumb stud, and you can also do it with this little groove right here, which is really cool. Easy. This knife has some really nice fidget factor, and because now Civivi already does a good job with, you know, smoothness, but because this blade is a little more robust, the combination of Civivi's smoothness and the weight and mass of the blade is making it an absolute free faller, and it's really nice compared to even other Civivis. I would say this knife has the best overall action of any other Civivi I've felt, and it's also, I would say, given that it's a full-size knife and has the deployment features in the positions that I want them, I would say this is probably my favorite to just kind of mess around with. The thumb stud's in a good spot, nice and big and rounded off, so it's not like some stupid pointy thing that's like, I deployed it, but ow, right? Yeah, no, it's in a good spot. The fuller, it reminds me a lot of the fuller on the, when they did the XM18 fuller spear points over at DLT Trading. A lot like that. I'm getting similar vibes. So yeah, fidget factor is great on this guy. Easy disengagements, easy deployment. The detent is good. I'll give you guys a look at the detent here real quick. Ready? Click. Nice. No detent lash. Flipper tab. Nice shape, right? It's all stuff that we expect from Civivi. It's all there. It's just done a little bit better. So that's nice. Scales are, the color's okay. I mean, if you're really into the color of refried beans, and maybe you'll like this, I would have gone with something black. Civivi's like, okay, we should have sent him a different color. No, it's totally fine. I think they do OD green, black, right? Maybe they do some other stuff. But yeah, you have a few different flavors, so you can do that. I like that in this case we have micarta. I don't know if they do G10 as well. You're welcome to use my link and find out. I doubt that they are very much different in terms of price. As per usual, Civivi's placement of their logo on the pivot instead of the blade is welcome. The blade says nothing except for, let me see that, there it is right there, N690. Okay, that's okay. Gosh, I wish Civivi would get on that 14C28N train. I really think, the days, if we ever get to a point where we're seeing Civivis in 154cm or 14C28N, which obviously are two different compositions but are very balanced, favoring different parts of that multi-directional teeter-totter, but very preferable steels for EDC nonetheless, in this price range. This is a little bit more expensive than a standard Civivi. So N690, doesn't have very good edge retention, but it's very easy to sharpen, and it's very, very stainless, right? So if you care about, your toughness, your stainless, and your ease of sharpening qualities over everything else, well, great. You'll love N690. Edge retention is kind of subpar versus your 9CR18 MOV steel, your D2 steel, stuff that we generally see in this territory, right? Now, not to say that 14C28N and 154cm are going to be better than D2 in terms of edge retention, but the overall balance between all the attributes I think is preferable at the price point. Feel free to argue with me down below. That's fine. That's partially what the comment section is for. I'm just letting you guys know what I'd like to see. The blade is super duper cool. We have a recurve compound Tanto. The reason I like this so much, this whole knife gives me kind of skinny Hinderer vibes. I said this in a live stream one time. This grind is very similar to Hinderer's non-production Hellfire grind, which is exactly a recurve compound Tanto. No, they didn't steal anything from Hinderer. That's a grind that's been done by many different people, many different knives before, but it's cool. It's not going to make for the most convenient cutting experience in every circumstance, but it sure does look nice. We have a flat that carries out about 75% the length of the blade, and it's not super prominent, but there's a lot of thickness and material carried out to that tip. This is going to be a very strong blade shape. While we do have a hollow grind up front here, it does not come down to a particularly thin edge, and it's even thicker up here, which is fine. I mean, like, if you're going to take a knife out and beat on it, this is still just barely a budget knife in my book. Yeah, that blade's going to probably hold up. In fact, you will injure some other part of the knife, likely the pivot internals or the lock, before you will damage that blade, unless you're really specifically trying to break off the last little teeny tiny tip of it, right? Very robust blade shape. Will it cut? I mean, yeah. Can I get a piece of paper? Paper cut test doesn't prove anything other than, can a blade like this slice? Yes, right? If you've been watching a video where people are like, this is too thick, it won't cut, I don't get it. It's salt, don't buy this, it's too thick. That's somebody who doesn't know how to cut with a knife, right? Cut with it, slice with it, right? It just amazes me how many times I've seen people do stuff like that. It's too thick behind the edge, it won't cut. Use it like a knife, it's not a hammer. Anyways, the edge will work just fine. And the edge is also done really, really well. I mean, Civivi does a great job. Look at that, you can see that, the reflectivity being picked up. Civivi does a great job of sharpening their knives from the factory, so they do come sharp usually. Anyways, the presentation of this is great and the ergonomics are also great. You have a lot of real estate in here and it's not like a hand melter, but it's definitely like, yeah, dude, go ahead and put your hands wherever you want. And if you want to choke up, we got a spot for you up here. Jimping that carries out to a reasonable length of the spine. And by the way, the edges or corners of the spine are nicely knocked down, so you're not having any fingernail shredding sharpness up there. This is a comfortable knife. It's not an A+ because we have this big open space that's just kind of like whatever, right? But the edges are nicely chamfered right in here and it's comfortable. The only thing that I feel is the pocket clip, which is something that I've been complaining about with Civivi for a while. That bill is too prominent. And honestly, the clip is probably a little bit too long. I think we probably could survive with a clip that was a little shorter and had less of a gooseneck thing going on right here. It's okay though. I mean, it definitely functions. Nice back spacer, contrasting with the liners since the liners are lipped and come out to the edge of the scales. So we have brown micarta, black liner, brown micarta back spacer, black liner, brown micarta. And then we have a lanyard bar that's in a place that's perfect. It's out of the way. You don't have to look at it if you don't want to, and it's not being favored over the clip, which is how it should be. Lanyard things should never be favored over the position of the clip. I'm not saying clip depth, I'm saying position of the clip should be prioritized, in my opinion. This is a completely and totally deep carry clip, so the only thing you'll see when this knife is in your pocket is the pocket clip. It's okay. The pocket clip is one of the only true flaws with this knife, and it's still a B- of a pocket clip. It's pretty good, right? Not bad. The knife locks up at something like 20%, 25%, completely and totally solid. That's what I expect from Civivi. We have a little bit of shouldering and a stop pin back here. That's fine. Easy disengagement, no lock stick, fall shut action, and perfect centering. Boy, this is nice. Thicker on the spine, thicker behind the edge than most Civivis. The blade, because it is a recurve, is going to cause a little bit more of a frustration sharpening. If you're a master sharpener, no problem, right? But if you're like the other 85% of people watching, including myself, and you're a novice sharpener, this is just, it's two separate edges you got to sharpen. That recurve is going to help the blade pass through material. You can pull the heavier parts of the blade through material better in some situations, and it's going to cause cumbersome hang up in other situations. To me, it's kind of a, wow, cool, that's a different, blade shape. Fidget factor is amazing on this guy. Just kind of recapping the main points of the review. Fidget factor is awesome. The aesthetic of the knife is awesome. The action, because the blade is a little bit heavier, is really, really good. The size of it is perfect. I'm so glad they didn't go, nah, let's just make it, 7 inches. That would have just been kind of a bummer for me. If they do that, we need a larger forward choil, I think, or just make sure that that forward choil is at least there so that you can always choke. Not necessarily a larger forward choil, but make sure that it's there. This is one of the coolest Civivi knives that I've ever seen. Absolutely. Do I think it's the best Civivi for EDC? No. I think one that's thinner behind the edge is probably better, but this is definitely one of the most compelling. I mean, like, I like to buy stuff that has a little extra there. Even if the extra actually takes away from utility sometimes, it's kind of fun, right? Perfect EDC knives, yeah, there's a ton of them. It's not like we're all like, oh gosh, where are all these really great EDC knives that are so purposefully built? We don't know where they are. No, they're everywhere, right? So having a little bit of flavor and a little bit of character in some of this stuff is welcome. Super cool. If we're gonna go with a $72 price tag, which is what this guy comes in at, N690 is okay, but it's definitely not my favorite. Man, I'd love to see them use 14C28N. Honestly, I think what they should have done with this is just give us 9CR or D2 and charge us 50 to 55 bucks like your other Civivis, right? I don't really want to pay $72 for N690. The design has almost got me there. Here's the thing though, this is still a good knife, and it's still something I think the vast majority of you who are into less expensive knives and Civivi knives, and just because this is still an all-around great design and absolutely a dependable cutting tool. You pick this up, are you going to be happy with it? Is it going to be a durable item, for knife tasks, not for scaling and building, for knife tasks? Yeah, absolutely, right? It's got that extra, that extra chest puff, that extra character. It's there. $72 isn't bad. It's just not blowing me away, but the design is so cool. It makes me want to tell people, yeah, you should go experience this. It's still a budget knife at $72 on this channel. Anything under 75 bucks is a budget knife. So it's still a budget knife. Price isn't fantastic. Blade steel is meh. It's not as bad as 8CR, but N690 is still okay. It's got decent attributes. I just wish it was a different steel. But this is really cool. Definitely one of the cooler. I hope Civivi continues to do stuff like this that has more of a personality, right? I mean, we don't need another Elementum. We don't need another Praxis. We have those. They're great. We don't need another Backlash, right? We got them. Countless others. This is neat. More character like this, Civivi. And honestly, I mean, if this was in 154 CM, I think I'd pay 80 bucks for it. So, Civivi, it'd be really cool if you guys used 154 CM in this territory. That's kind of, I don't know, from my perspective, that $75 to $100 territory is kind of like wishy-washy, right? So, get a decent steel in there, quality like what Civivi brings to the table. That might be a zone that could be, you know, partially dominated pretty easily. I don't know. That's just my perspective, but I'm just letting you guys know. Can I recommend it? Yes, this will go in 2 playlists, most recommended knives and cheap knives I like. So feel free to check out those playlists if you'd like to see what else I recommend. Thanks again to Civivi for sending this in. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.